Right now in KGW, a potentially armed suspect is under arrest after breaking into a cannabis dispensary in southeast Portland. Plus, for negotiations stand and the ongoing Providence strike as workers rally right now in Medford. And the latest on the wildfires in Southern California as the region gets its first rainfall in more than 260 days. But first, President Donald Trump delivers a campaign promise ordering immigration sweeps across the country. Your news at noon starts right now. President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration is ramping up in cities nationwide. Los Angeles, Denver, Chicago, and others are seeing a dramatic rise in arrests of undocumented immigrants. On Sunday alone, Immigration and Customs Enforcement made 956 arrests. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm China Green. President Trump's mass deportation plan also sparked an international standoff over the weekend. Colombia, typically a close U.S. ally, turned away 2 U.S. military aircraft with deported migrants. In return, Trump threatened Colombia with 25% tariffs and demanded the U.S. visas of Colombian government officials be revoked. According to the White House, Colombia then agreed to, quote, all of President Trump's terms. Meanwhile, active duty troops continue to make their way to Texas to help build permanent and temporary physical barriers, monitor the movements of migrants, and assist in transporting detainees back to their country of origin. NBC's Priya Sidar has the latest from El Paso, Texas.
We've seen a lot of activity here in El Paso over the last few days, a steady stream of planes landing at Biggs Airfield behind me here at Fort Bliss, carrying some of those 1,500 troops that have been deployed to the border. That's 500 Marines and 1,000 soldiers joining the 2,500 National Guardsmen and Reserve forces that were already here. And they really have 3 primary missions. One is to build those temporary and permanent physical barriers to try to stop those illegal crossings. The second is they're going to be using intelligence analysts for monitoring and detection purposes to look for migrants. And the third, probably most interesting one, is they're going to be using military aircraft to assist with the Department of Homeland Security's deportation flights. We've already seen at least one of those flights leave from here in El Paso headed towards Guatemala. And we're hearing that potentially more troops could be landing today. They're getting briefed at Fort Bliss and they're awaiting their orders as to exactly where they're going to be stationed along the 2,000-mile border. Back to you.
ICE agents are also allowed to make arrests now in places that used to be considered off limits, like schools and churches. This month, Augustana Lutheran Church held its 30th annual Martin Luther King Jr. church service with special recognition to immigrants. The lead pastor of the church declared it sanctuary congregation almost 30 years ago in 1996. Church members say the mission will continue.
So we want to make sure that they know that there is a place in this region where they can come to and find safety, comfort, and resilient, adamant resistance to violence and to deportation.
They also say that their church can't give someone the help they need. They're forming a network of organizations to make sure someone can. Here's a look at some national headlines this afternoon. Multiple people were injured after a car drove into a crowd celebrating the Eagles' win in Philadelphia. Now, we want to warn you that this video may be hard for you to watch, but this crash happened just before 10 p.m. last night. At least 3 people were injured, but were expected to be okay. Police said that the person inside the vehicle was taken into custody for questioning, but that the crash does not appear to be intentional. In Washington, 2 skiers that got injured in the backcountry of Chelan County were rescued after their Apple Watch sent an SOS alert to emergency services. The new video shows the skiers being rescued just after sunset last Wednesday. And according to the sheriff's office, one of the skiers fell about 1,000 feet and sustained a leg injury, but is expected to be okay. And a return of more drone sightings in the Northeast. After a frenzy last month, the FAA issued temporary flight restrictions on drones in New York and New Jersey. Those restrictions appear to slow things down for a while, but just over a week ago, the restrictions were lifted and sightings went back up again. In a statement to NBC News, the FAA did not confirm new sightings, but said the agency is responsible for ensuring, quote, drones operate safely within the broader national airspace system. And authorities in South Carolina say the last 4 of 43 escaped monkeys have been recaptured after 2 months living in the woods. The monkeys made a break for it after police say an employee didn't fully lock the enclosure at a facility. The monkeys weathered a rare snowstorm during the time in the wild and were tempted back into captivity with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And those are a look at your national headlines. Rod Hill, why do I feel like for you to get back to someplace, it would take something off of McDonald's menu?
My wife does that. Honey, I've got a cheeseburger. Clean up the living room, please. Honey, cheeseburger. Yeah, she does that. You're right. 25 degrees is the temperature out there this morning. It looks like that will be the low. That ties the temp for the coldest we've been during this long stretch of all these frosty nights. Notice Troutdale was 37 this morning because east winds were blowing. That keeps the temperature up, but the wind chill was in the 20s. It was 22 out in Hillsboro, also up in Vancouver. We had 19 in Hood River this morning. It was 26 for you folks down in Salem. The forecast just keeps on keeping on in terms of clear skies. We're warming nicely right now, but we will have another cold, frosty night upcoming tonight into your Tuesday morning. Look at Newport, Uquinta Bay, our live camera, clear skies. And 52 degrees at noon. It's also clear. It's clear everywhere. Here you can see the beautiful view of the snow-capped Three Sisters from Aspen Lakes Golf Course over in the Sisters area. They're on tap to get up to about 40 degrees or perhaps a little bit warmer than that. Rose City at noon, where we at? We're at 44. We're definitely on track to get back up to 50 or better. I have is 52 degrees at noon. The evening will quickly get chilly, and again, we'll be frosty again tomorrow morning. Rain is on the 7-day forecast, finally, and we'll have that for you coming up in just a bit.
Thank you, Rod. In an update this afternoon, police say they have arrested the suspect in this morning's burglary in southeast Portland. Around 5 a.m. this morning, police responded to a call about a break-in at a cannabis dispensary on Southeast 10th and Division. When officers got there, they found someone inside the business they believed was armed and asked anyone in the area to remain indoors. The crisis negotiation team worked for more than an hour to try and get the person to come out on their own. Police say they then used a drone to help locate the person inside the business before officers went in.
Among the things they did was send a drone inside to look for this individual. We saw the individual inside the business. We eventually moved inside with personnel, and I think that is when he realized that we were not leaving.
Police said the suspect then surrendered peacefully and was taken into custody. Police are also investigating a deadly crash in southeast Portland. It happened last night shortly after 6:30 near southeast Boise and Cesar Chavez Boulevard. When officers got there, they found a pedestrian who had been hit. She was taken to the hospital and later died from her injuries. Police say the driver stayed at the scene. In Lincoln City, police arrested a Beaverton man after he allegedly drove around a public beach while drunk. This is a map of where the crash happened. Witnesses say the driver, Artem Savenko, was speeding along Dee River Beach. He also spun around the beach and narrowly missed families who were there. When officers tried to stop him, an open bottle of vodka flew out of the car. Savenko eventually stopped, was arrested, and booked on DUI, reckless driving, and reckless endangering. A man is fighting for his life after he was hit by a suspected drunk driver while pushing a Lime scooter on the way home from an event. This happened at the intersection of Northeast Hazelo and Grand. 27-year-old Mitchell Carlson suffered multiple fractures and a brain damage. After a week in intensive care, he was transferred to a trauma recovery and acute care unit. We spoke to his mother, who says that she and her husband flew in from Montana to see him.
I had to give consent over the phone. It was horrible. First time we saw him was in the neurotrauma ICU. Of course, he was unconscious. He was on a ventilator. His head was shaved. He had drains coming out of his head.
According to court documents, the driver, 47-year-old Isaac Quinton Ellis, smelled of alcohol and was slurring his words when he was taken into custody. Carlson family is raising money through GoFundMe. We have a link on our website. District leaders in St. Helens are expected to interview the finalists for school district superintendent on Wednesday. A current and former teacher at St. Helens High School were both arrested earlier this year, the school year, and charged with multiple counts of sexual abuse involving students. And since then, multiple staff members in the district, including the superintendent, have been placed on leave. The goal here was to have a new superintendent in place by next Monday. Happening right now, thousands of striking healthcare workers and union leaders are rallying at Providence Medford Medical Center. Providence doctors and nurses are in their third week of picketing right now as they continue to call for better wages, benefits, and safer staffing levels. On Friday, Oregon's congressional delegation sent a letter to Providence leadership urging the healthcare system to engage in good faith bargaining with the union. The union representing the striking workers claims Providence is not approaching negotiations seriously. In a statement, Providence says it's working closely with federal mediators, but the union's current proposals are not financially sustainable.